Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session. We'll just give it a minute or two just to let any latecomers join the session, and then we'll make a start. So for those who have just joined, good afternoon, welcome. We're just going to give it a few more seconds just to let any latecomers join, and then we will make a start. Okay, let's make a start. So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn webinar series. This is hopefully, as you're finding, fantastic opportunity to be able to find out a little bit more about what's going on here at Compleat and how you can get the most out of your iComplete subscription. Today's session, we will cover the custom fields functionality within the iComplete system, and I'll be showing you an example of each of the various custom fields that we have, and obviously where they can pop up within the system and where you can utilize them. Before we go on, today we're excited to introduce Pegasus as our Lunch and Learn sponsor. Pegasus is an award-winning provider of accounting, payroll and business software. Their aim is to build business tools that enable companies to run their operations every day effortlessly and profitably. By being part of the Compleat ecosystem, they enable businesses to make smarter buying decisions directly within our platform, and we'll be talking a little bit about the ecosystem as we go through the slides today. So the agenda for today, we are going to be obviously discussing what are custom fields, and just running through some of the benefits of what custom fields will give us. I'll then, as I said, show you a live demonstration of some custom fields that I've already created, but we'll be talking about the different types of custom fields available, where you can then link them in to the system and where you can then report on them. As I said, we'll then look at the Compleat ecosystem, and then we'll have an opportunity for any questions and answers. So this is me, Darren. I'm one of the software implementation consultants here at Compleat, and if I haven't spoken to you before, then obviously welcome, and who knows, I may speak to you at some point in the future. Just through this session, just some housekeeping tips. If you could just ensure all your microphones are muted, obviously apart from mine. We are recording the session. So if you've got any questions at all, just pop them in the Q&A box that hopefully you'll be seeing on your screens, and then we'll go through them at the end of this session. We'll obviously share a copy of this recording with you after the session, and if you haven't already seen them on the support site, we're building up a nice bank of all of the previous Lunch and Learn sessions for yourselves and any colleagues to be able to go and revisit those at your convenience. So looking at what are custom fields. So custom fields are, in essence, they're additional fields that you can add to your iComplete implementation, which will allow you to capture additional analysis data. A great example that actually came up last week when I was talking to a customer was they're integrating with QuickBooks, and what they were saying was that they don't have the department analysis available within QuickBooks because because of the pricing and the way that QuickBooks works, it increases the subscription cost, so they don't pay for that. The beauty of custom fields within iComplete is that you could create those department codes within Compleat if you wanted to, and then use those to then analyze your transactions. They are customizable in different formats. So for example, you can have date fields checkboxes, so toggle switches on and off, simple text, predefined lists, etc. And so we'll be going through examples of those. And hopefully what you'll also find is that they are simple to set up and easy to implement. The benefits of the custom fields, as we've, or rather as I've already said, is the increased analysis capabilities, being able to analyze transactions further, in addition to the analysis fields that are already being cached across from your finance platform. You have also the ability to add to that, and that can help with your workflows. I'll be showing you how to include the custom fields within the workflows to drive the routes where the transactions are to be directed to. Helps to give you detailed expenditure tracking as well. Again, using that example of the department codes, if you weren't already using them, you could start to use them within Compleat, and then you could start running your reporting, tracking expenditure, and obviously, as the last point alludes to, that is enhancing your reporting. So let me get my test system up on the screen. I'll just make sure I haven't managed to time out. So far, so good. Yep, we're all looking fine. And I will show you the custom fields within the system. So this is just my test system. So you'll see some additional functions in here that you may not have depending on your user permissions. So don't worry too much if you see something that's a little bit alien to you. But concentrating on custom fields, what we're going to do first of all is see where the custom fields themselves are created. So that's through the configuration tiles. So the configuration tiles are accessible to any administrators of the system. Once you have that access, if we click onto configuration, obviously it brings you into the admin and config side of the system. You'll notice you have a tile called custom fields. And if I click into that custom field tile, depending on how your system's being configured, you may have some in here, you may have nothing. Obviously, I've got these 5 sitting in here because I've created them already. Just looking at the screen, we've got a big button here to add a new custom field, and that's obviously going to open up and enable you to create a new one. Just before I click on that, I'm just going to talk through these samples that we have down here. So each of these are a custom field that I have created, and we've got area, budgeted for, date of confirmation, ID, project number. These are just examples that I've put in. These are just how I've labeled them up. You can obviously use them for whatever purposes and name them as you like. Looking at this column here, we've got a type, and I'll be showing you the differences between all of these. We've got area, which is a predefined. Now, what that means is area is a predefined list. And when we go into that, we'll see that I've created a list of northeast, southwest. What that in turn means is that if we were to include this custom field onto a layout, we would then, let's say it's our invoices layout, we would then find that when a customer is, when a user is processing an invoice, they will find the area field on that layout. They can click onto that and they will have a predefined list, and in there will be choices of north, south, east or west. They can then choose the appropriate code and then continue processing. I've also got one here budgeted for, and you'll see this is a checkbox. So this is a simple toggle on or off. An example that I implemented for another customer a few months ago was they wanted it to be able to very quickly show if it was an item, if it was a purchase that had been budgeted for, leave it off if it was, or switch it on if it wasn't. That in turn meant that one of the approvers would be able to very quickly visualize and see, oh no, it hasn't been budgeted for, I need to look into this. But again, you can use it for whatever circumstances or situation you like. Data confirmation, that's a date field. ID, that's a number field, and then project number is a simple text field. Now let's go into these and I'll just show you what the options are. And in fact, before we go into these, I'll just show you if we were to create a new custom field, it will take us to this screen here. We could type in the name, and then this is the field where we would choose the type. And you'll see those types that we were just looking at sitting in here. Depending on which one you choose, will then the screen will then react and show you the options that we have available. What I'll do is I'll come back out of an example and we'll go through these existing ones. So we'll start with area, predefined list. So what we have here, the name of our custom field, we've given it a type of predefined and it's active, so you can deactivate if there's a custom field that you no longer need. We've then got options here as to whether they are mandatory or read-only. So mandatory will insist that the user must choose a code. They must choose one of these or must put something in that field before they are able to continue processing the transaction. Read-only is if you are presetting the code through the layout security, you can set it that the system has preset that code for you, but it can then not be changed because it's read-only. Looking down here, we've got the actual codes themselves that I've created. So very basic example, just northeast, southwest, points of the compass. If I wanted to add any more, I've got an add button here that will open up this line, and I could then start to break those out even further if I wanted to. I'm just giving the code and the name the same information. Once I've created that, I can click on save, and that then commits the changes. You can, if you wanted to, import a whole list of custom codes as well, and you'll see up here, if you use a spreadsheet, then codes must be column A and names must be column B. Save that spreadsheet, close it, select to import it, and that will automatically bring all the codes in for you. You also have the ability to delete as well if you no longer wanted to use a specific code. So that's your predefined lists. And the beauty of that is that if it's an area that you do need to have analyzed on your transactions, then you don't run the risk of misspellings, the capitalization being incorrect, so on and so forth. You just get your standardized list. Looking at some of the other examples that we've got, budgeted for. So this was a checkbox. If we have a look at that one, very simple screen. Budgeted for is a checkbox. Again, you can set it as read-only. So if you were utilizing security and defaulting that field, you could set it that it cannot then be changed on the transaction. But for a checkbox, there's nothing really else to set for that. But I'll obviously show you an example of a checkbox being used on a transaction. Date of confirmation. So we've selected a type of date. And here we've got selections like allow past dates, allow future dates. So you can restrict whether it's going to allow those types of dates. And again, we've got our mandatory and our read-only. And again, mandatory controlling whether something must be put in there before the user is able to process the transaction further. ID, that's just a simple number. And again, we can control the number of decimal places, minimum value, maximum value, and again, our mandatory read-only. And lastly, we've got our project number, which I've created as a simple text, and I've restricted it to 10 characters in here. And again, mandatory read-only. So once we've got our custom field created, we can then go and apply them to our layouts, because it's through the layout that the users would then be actually entering information into that specific custom field. So what I've done is on my layouts and on my invoice layout, on the field configuration tab, any custom field that you've created, as long as it is active, you will see it sitting at the bottom of the list, and you can see here they are. So budgeted for, date confirmation, ID, project number, and area. And what I've done for these is I've included all of them. I've said that these first four will be at a header level and area will be at a line level. These toggle switches here, these are the required or mandatory. You'll notice that they are grayed out, and I'm clicking on these and they're not moving. Just remember that to control whether they are mandatory or not, that is done through the custom field itself. If we just nip back to custom fields, that's done through the custom field itself within the custom field record, and it's this mandatory here. So that's where that is controlled. So if I toggle that on for area and then save, and then I go back to my layouts, back into my invoice layout, you will see that on the field configuration tab, it's then switched on. Again, I can't switch it on or off because it's done through custom fields itself. So that's one kind of gotcha that keeps getting me all the time. So we've now included our custom fields on our invoice layout. Incidentally, if we did want to start restricting a list or down to a specific group of users through the security, or rather through the settings groups for the security, if I go into the settings group, you'll see that we also have our custom fields here. So I've got all of these where not all of them you can do anything with because of the nature of the field itself. However, if I look at the line level and area, you could see that I could set a default value, and I could also restrict what other codes are available to this group of users as well. So you do have that functionality around custom fields and security. I'm going to leave that all off for the time being and just come out of my layout. So I'll just show you how that actually looks on the transaction. So if I go back to my home page, I'll go to my invoices tile, and I will then go into one of my transactions, and what we can see is sitting at the top at a header level as requested is our budgeted for date of confirmation, ID and project number. And then at a line level, here's my area code here. So using the grid directly, I could come into here and there's my list of area codes that have been preset for me, so I can go through and select those. And if I go to the edit screen, I can then get to the header where I can then start to use the other custom fields like so. So we'll just pop some details in here. Now remembering that project number, I said maximum of 10 characters, so obviously those checks will come in as well. But if I save onto there, you'll notice it's populated that information for me like so. I think it was area that I said was mandatory, so if I go back and let me just remove the area from one of the lines, you'll see it's come up with the little exclamation mark. Area requires a value to be set, so it will obviously notify you if you haven't put anything in there, and obviously if you need to. So that's how the fields look on a transaction level. Another great piece of functionality with this is you can also include these into your workflows as well. So I'm just going to go back into the configuration tile and I'm going to go to workflows. Now, if we look at my invoices workflow, very simple example. All this is doing invoice approval. We have said go to Abigail if it's over 99 billion, what have you, which is obviously the way to get a transaction to auto approve within the system. Now, if we think about the example that I was just talking about with regards to the budgeted or has been budgeted for, what we could do is if I create a new node, I could say that it goes to Simon if I add the criteria when we're looking at the field to apply condition 2, as I'm scrolling down at a header level, obviously bearing in mind you have to be careful that you're picking the field up from the correct location, whether it's header or line. But as I'm scrolling down, you can see there's my custom codes here, and we could say budgeted for is equal to off. You could obviously say on if you wanted to. If I then say OK there, I've effectively built a node that is telling the system that if it has not been budgeted for, go to Simon. I can save that node down. I would want it to go to Simon first, so I can then just drag Simon up to position 1. So go to Simon if it's not budgeted for. Once he's approved, it will then move on to the invoice approval stage, which is Abigail. And obviously, if it hasn't, if it has been budgeted for, so the switch is on, then it will skip Simon and just go straight to Abigail. So that's how you can include those custom fields into the workflows. And obviously, when we're talking about things like the project number, the way I've got it set up is a free text or a simple text field. So anybody could be putting anything in there. You probably wouldn't be able to get a proper workflow working off that because, again, data integrity. But if you were to put a project number as, say, a predefined field, that would then give a list. They could choose the project, and then you know that you can select the correct project through the workflow and drive it that way. So that's including custom fields on the workflows. The last area that I will show you where custom fields can come into play is in the reporting side. So if I go to the reports, now custom fields aren't yet available in all the reports, but that is something that's being worked on. But if I was, for example, to look at open orders, I've got my open orders report. If I was to open up the lines like so, you'll see that in here I've got my custom fields included in here. Obviously, I haven't populated anything in against this particular order, so that's why they're blank, but you can see that they are included on this particular report. You can also include them on your custom reports as well. For those who haven't seen about the custom reports, there is a previous recording of the Lunch and Learns that we did about this a few months ago, so do go and have a look for that. But just to show you how that would work, if I go into the custom report, to add the fields to the grid, what you'd be looking to do is any of these 3-dot sys buttons that's sitting at the end of the fields, if we click onto there, go to columns, and you'll see that your custom fields are then displayed down at the bottom, and putting a simple tick in the box will then allow you to add that output to your report. And if I scroll through here, you can see that there's my sort of project number, data confirmation, budgeted for, and ID. So you can see that information is actually coming through like so. And again, just looking at this budgeted for, what we can also do is include that into our custom fields filters. So as I'm going through, I could pick up and say budgeted for is equal to yes, filter on that, and there's my results like so. So that's, again, how it can help with the actual reporting. So, as I said, a very quick run through of that. You will find on the help site there is information about custom fields. So if I was to just type in custom fields, you've got create a custom field here. So it will take you through everything, and again, examples of where they the different types, etc., and how they will work. And again, as I said, if from the support site, from Lunch and Learn tile, this is where you can get access. So this recording will show in here later, but there's that custom reporting Lunch and Learn that we did back in November. That's a lot further away than I thought it was. So I hope that was all of use and benefit for you. Just before we get on to the questions and answers, the ecosystem So this is our built-in supplier network that connects businesses with trusted providers across a huge range of industries. So whether you're looking for office supplies, financial solutions, or specialized services, the ecosystem makes it seamless to find, connect with, and buy from your best suppliers without all the usual hassle. What you see here is just a small snapshot of the many suppliers available through our platform. And if I go back into Compleat, the way to access the ecosystem is through the banner shown at the top here. So I encourage you to go and have a look at that later on. So that brings us to the questions. Let me just bring up my questions area here, and we will have a look. So we've got some in no particular order. First question, can I change the order the custom fields display on the layout? So I would imagine what you're referring to here is when you're going into the actual transaction, if you are able to change the order of how these appear. Unfortunately, not yet. No. It looks like they're running in alphabetical order currently, but I have seen what some customers do is they will prefix the number so they can control the order that way. So 1, 2, 3, etc. But yeah, there's, as with any of the fields, unfortunately, there's no way to change the actual order in which they're shown. Next question we got is how many custom fields can I create? I have managed to, well, I have created for myself, I think when I was playing around with it, about 60 custom fields, and didn't show any problems of struggles, etc. So imagine you can probably get quite a few in there. Another question is, what if I have some fields that I want for one scenario and some for others? Right, okay, so for that one, I imagine what you're possibly talking about is, let's say, for example, if it's an invoice, then you want to record, let's say, the budgeted for and the date of confirmation. But if it's a credit note, then you want to record the ID and the project number. And in fact, being an invoice and a credit note lends itself perfectly, because all you would do is just on the layouts for your invoice layout, add the fields that you do want into there, and then for the credit note fields, add the other fields into there. However, just going a little bit further, if you've got invoices, different types of invoices, one where you do and one where you don't want to record certain fields, then what you could do is create another layout for the invoices. And to do that, just very simple, into the layout, duplicate. That will create you a copy, and then in one version, excuse me, in one version you can add the fields for the one scenario, and then in the other version add the fields for that scenario. Let's see if we've got any other questions. So I hope I'm reading these in the right order. Can I import custom fields? Yes, you can. So yeah, custom fields, it was on the area, so predefined, obviously our list of fields, and it's this option here, select file to import. Will allow you, and again, remembering that codes column A, names column B. So just see if any other questions come through. Doesn't look like it, which is absolutely fine. Obviously, if you do think of any questions at all, then do feel free to reach out to obviously the contact details here. So we've got the success team, which is success@compleatsoftware.com, or obviously there's the support desk as well, who will always be happy to help you. But thank you ever so much for attending. I hope you found it of use. I hope the weather stays nice and bright and sunny for the bank holiday weekend coming up, and I look forward to speaking with you all again on the next session. Many thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.